Hey, Jonathan from AJ&Smart here, and today I'm going to show you how to do the 4-part sketch from Sprint. Boom! So usually the 4-part sketch happens on the Tuesday of the design sprint if you're working directly from the sprint book. However, in the updated version of the design sprint, you can see that on our channel somewhere, Design Sprint 2.0, it's from 2018. This usually happens at the second half of Monday. So let me show you exactly how to run through all 4 exercises of the 4-part sketch in Sprint. Woohoo! Okay, so there's 4 parts to the 4-step sketch, as you might have been able to guess from the name. There's notes, ideas, crazy eights, and solution sketch. So let me bring you through each one of these and show you exactly how to do it. They're all actually pretty easy once you know how to do it. So let's start with notes. So notes is pretty simple. What you're going to get everyone in the room to do is take a clipboard, a blank piece of paper, this is A4 in Europe or letter in the US, and all they need to do right now is walk around the room, look at everything that's stuck up, so the lightning demos, the how might we's, the map, the long-term goal, and the questions, and all they're doing is copying things down right now. So they're not trying to create anything new, they're just taking the clipboard and they're copying things down. So usually how I like to start and how I like to get people to start is to have them write down the long-term goal and to have them write down the questions, and that's just a way to get people started. Usually we give people around 20 minutes to do this task, and the whole point of it is just to get the juices flowing for people to get used to writing, for people to get used to marking things down, and just to take everything into their short-term memory again. This note section of the 4-part sketch is really, really easy, and people shouldn't be thinking too much about it, just writing. So let me show you how that really looks in the end. Wait, okay, so I just spent the last 20 minutes standing here and writing out the notes just to show you how that looks. I didn't actually, I had one prepared. So it can look really like anything. So long-term goals are written up here. I just took a few pages of notes, and there's really no real formula for this. So the note section is just about collecting everything that's on the walls around you in the design sprint, just sketching things down, and if anything comes to mind, write it, but it's not about coming up with ideas, it's about copying things down. That's what's important about step 1, notes. Let's move on to step 2, ideas. Okay, with ideas, the participants of the design sprint are now going to be looking at the notes that they took and trying to make some of those things and some of those ideas and some of those things they found interesting a little bit more tangible. And now it doesn't need to be anything beautiful looking, and it doesn't need to be anything specific, and no participant needs to have chosen any idea yet. The idea is just to start turning things into something a little bit more tangible. So for example, if you saw something in a lightning demo that you found interesting, an idea for a landing page, the idea here is just to start drawing little sketches. You look at the notes that you've taken and you just start sketching for the next 20 minutes. And it really doesn't need to be beautiful. Here's some examples. So the participants should just use as many pages as they like. They should be, again, just walking around, sketching things, taking ideas, and taking notes as well. It doesn't need to be beautiful, it just needs to be a start. And again, this is just moving you towards getting to the final sketching, and it's just sort of lubing up your brain to create the final sketch. It's just sort of lubing up your brain when you're getting on your way to the final sketch, because you don't want people to start with a blank page. And this is just creating ammo. And even if nothing here is interesting, and even if nothing here turns out to be your final concept, just drawing these sort of things gets your mind, did you hear that? That was my phone. Just drawing these sort of things gets your mind making connections that you wouldn't make without writing. Okay, now that you have your notes and your ideas all around you, we're going to move on to crazy eights. Crazy eights, we've already created a completely separate video for this because it's a little bit more complicated. So you can find that video here or by searching crazy eights AJ&Smart. But just to show you super quickly how that looks, it is about taking the ideas from your previous step. So looking at the previous step, the idea sketch, taking 1 or 2 of those and trying a few iterations of them. So actually, there's really no point in me explaining this right now. Just check out that other video. It's gonna be much better than this because I feel like I sound a little bit hungover. Okay, let's move on to the final and most important step, and that's the solution sketch, which is going to look something like this. So here's what a finished solution sketch looks like. And essentially what it is 3 A4 or letter pieces of paper taped together, and then some smaller A6 or A5 or whatever you want pieces of paper just stuck onto it. The idea is that you're trying to create something completely self-explanatory, because you won't be able to show this to people tomorrow. You won't be able to explain it to people on the second day of the sprint. It has to be completely self-explanatory. Essentially what the 3-step solution is 3 panels showing your concept, showing the direction that you want to show, and showing the bet that you want to make. If we would build this, if we would prototype this, we would get some interesting answers. So if you look here at this simple basic overview, it's nothing more than some really quick, really simple drawings with a Sharpie and some Post-its stuck on here with some explanations. When you're trying to get people to do this, they sometimes close up a little bit because people don't really enjoy sketching. People don't really enjoy drawing, and they don't do it in their day-to-day life. And so there's a couple of tips to make sure that the participants don't take this too seriously and that they don't lock up. The first tip is ugly is okay. This is not a drawing competition, except when I do it, it's pretty good. This is not a drawing competition. It does not need to look good. In fact, it really doesn't matter at all, and it doesn't have any say in the end result of whether you're going to win or not. The idea is it just needs to be as clean as possible so that people understand it at a glance. The second thing is that words are important. Here you can see that there's a couple of Post-its stuck on here showing explaining bits of the concept that you would like to explain if you were holding it and explaining it, but you're not going to be doing that. So words are extremely important. Being able to explain the concept is more important than how it looks. The third tip is to give it a nickname. It's important to realize that the concept is going to be completely anonymous, and you're not going to be able to say, hey, that's my concept. So give it a catchy nickname, something that will stick, and something that the moderator can point at and say, hey, the Sexy Maker, and talk about it. So without having to say that this is the name of the person who created it. Because remember, the sprint is really about removing bias from the conversation and from it's about removing the bias from the decision-making process. And we don't want to know that, the CEO, Jenny, is after creating this and now everyone's scared and wants to vote on her thing, but maybe she just doesn't know what she's talking about, It's Jenny. And the fourth and most important rule is that you really focus on one idea. So you don't need here to have like 20 different things crammed together. Just focus on one big idea, something that came up in your notes or something that came up in a lightning demo. Just focus on one thing and make sure your participants don't get stuck trying to create some giant beast that has like 20 different ideas in it. So really making it as simple and self-explanatory as possible is more important than getting everything in there, because other people within the sprint are going to be able to also fill out those details for you. So remember, it's anonymous. Remember, ugly is okay. Remember that words are important, and remember to focus on one big idea. And I know I said those in a slightly different order, but you get the point. Okay, so that's the 4-step sketch on the sketching day of the design sprint, which, just to remind you, is on the afternoon of the Monday of the design sprint 2.0. And once again, to remind you what the Design Sprint 2.0 is, the Design Sprint 2.0 is the current version of the Design Sprint in 2018, which is based on hundreds of design sprints. It's the iteration. So you can check out what the Design Sprint 2.0 is on this video here. So I hope this video helped you. Love to know in the comments if you have any other questions. Please give it a like, please give it a share, please give it a subscribe. Please, what else can people do? Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. It's fine. If you like this video, and if you kind of like what we're doing on the AJ&Smart channel here, I can definitely recommend you check out the Product Breakfast Club podcast that I do with Jake Knapp, the author of this book. It's a weekly podcast about product process, design process, innovation, everything you could possibly want around this whole design topic world that you're looking at. So it's the Product Breakfast Club podcast on Apple Podcasts, on wherever you listen to podcasts. You should definitely check that one out. Bye-bye.